Hey, beautiful souls. At last, Imbolc is approaching, and with it, the first stirrings of life within the earth, holding a promise of the spring to come. The festival of Imbolc, or Imbolc, is very dear to me as it's so intimately associated with the Celtic goddess Bridget, one of the goddesses I serve as priestess. So Imbolc falls midway between winter solstice and the spring equinox. So it's a liminal time, a time in between, which makes it a time of possibility and potential. It's usually celebrated on the 1st of February, and it was one of the four main cross-quarter festivals in pre-Christian Ireland. And it's mentioned in very early Irish texts. Unfortunately, they tell us that it exists, but not a lot about what people would have done to celebrate. The name from the Old Irish is in the belly, probably referring to the pregnant ewes. This is the beginning of the lambing season. Some suggest it's instead linked to the word for ewe's milk. And a very early Irish text says that Imbolc is when the ewes were milked at the beginning of spring. So there's these really strong associations with milk, with fertility, with birth. Is also rather poetically considered to be the quickening of life in the belly of the earth, ready to burst forth in the spring, just like the first felt sensation of the kick of the baby in the womb. So it's a time to feel into the question, what wants to come alive in me? What do I want to create or be in the year to come? As life starts to return and the growth of spring begins to wake up, in which direction do I want to grow my own life? In Scottish folklore, the year was traditionally divided into two. You have the dark and the light half of the year. So Imbolc represents the transition from dark into light. And the mythology of how this occurs has lots of different versions. In some, the old hag of winter, the Cailleach, keeps Bridget, the spring maiden, captive in a cave or a castle all through the winter months. And the Cailleach is then turned to stone by the first stirrings of spring Imbolc, allowing Bridget to escape and bring the warmer weather, only to be captured again at Samhain as the wheel of the year turns back to the dark half. So this is kind of reminiscent of the story of Demeter and Persephone. In other versions, Bridget and the Cailleach are two faces of the same goddess. So the Cailleach drinks from a well of youth at Imbolc and she transforms into the radiant Bridget. So Imbolc is there for a time of renewal and transformation and embracing of that. And it's a playful time full of reborn, youthful energy. So it's nice if you can to incorporate some play into your celebrations. What lights up your inner child? Can you do that? Folklore has it that if the weather is fine at Imbolc, this means that the Cailleach is out gathering more firewood. And so there's a long winter still ahead of us as she settles in. But if the weather is foul, then spring is nearly here because she's sleeping and has neglected to get the firewood. Or maybe she's already turned to stone. So fingers crossed for horrible weather at Imbolc. Bridget, of course, is a goddess associated with both water and fire. She's the goddess of poetry, blacksmithing, and healing. She's this wonderful, multifaceted goddess. And her flowers are the snowdrops that are the first to appear in spring. So one beautiful Imbolc custom is to go out and search for those early snowdrops, Bridget's sign of returning life. And it's also traditional to visit or decorate wells sacred to Bridget, and also considered to be a portal between this world and the other world, which might be why we throw coins and make wishes. Many people make bridie dolls every year. So bridie being another name that Bridget has. She has many names. So they can be made from cloth, stuffed with newspaper or newspaper wrapped with tape. Here's some that I've made over the years. It's interesting how different they are and proof that you don't have to be artistic to do it. You can also make Bridget's crosses, traditionally with straw or rushes, but you can make them with pipe cleaners or even gardening ties like this one. And they're really easy to make. In some areas, it was traditional to leave out a red cloth or scarf the night before so that Bridget would bless this as she passed by. And the dew collected on this can be used to wash your face the next morning to accept her blessing, or you keep the cloth and it's said to give protection and healing. Because Bridget's a fire goddess, candles or a fire are always appropriate to celebrate her festival. She's very much like Hestia, associated with the hearth and the fireplace. And baking is another way to embrace her dairy traditions. Bridget was said to have a white cow with red ears, which is always a trait associated with otherworldly or fairy animals. So traditional foods for this time are milk, butter, cheese, honey, and it's a great time to make cakes or scones or pancakes. And I don't think you're losing the spirit if you want to use oat milk. Finally, it's a great time to journal on those questions from earlier. Feel into this. If I were to look back at this year, at the next winter solstice, and know that this has been an amazing year, what would have happened? What is quickening within me that wants to be born in the springtime? What projects, what creative endeavors, what do I want in my job, with my family, in my relationship? Feel into all these questions and plant the seeds of what you want to grow in your life. However you're celebrating Imbolc, I hope you have an amazing time. Sending you so much love.